super exciting to be here. It's so exciting to see such a fantastic turnout. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey today and see how I go. So I'm going to work on talking a little bit about the big picture, some of the national opportunities we have out there. I wanted to have an acknowledgement of country, and our department does recognise the First People of the nation and their ongoing cultural and spiritual connections to the lands, water, seas, skies and communities. And a little bit about this talk, I'm going to talk a little about, to really highlight the recognition of AI as a critical technology in the national interest. And I'm going to focus on some of the key programs we have around our voluntary AI frameworks for responsible AI. A lot of the work that we're doing in building Australia's AI industry is an area that I'm very passionate about. So you'll see the majority of it is about the AI industry and driving adoption, AI adoption in the Australian SME. So at the National AI Centre, we are about accelerating positive AI adoption and innovation that benefits Australia's business and communities. We do a lot of work around adoption, enabling responsible AI adoption across industry, as well as creating a responsible AI industry in Australia. And I'm really proud today to share that we've recently been joined by 4 AI Adopt Centres, which Margaret was discussing. And today you're going to hear from 2. You're going to hear from Simon from ARAIN, who's doing a lot of work in the regional area. And you're also going to hear from Janet, who is talking about, manufacturing SMEs and the tangible pathway on how AI can help their business. And these are amazing centres because we haven't had them for a while, but it means that you have someone to work with as you go on that journey. We also have SMEC.ai that's based in Melbourne that's very much about building new AI startups, and they've just started their founders program and they'll be intending to run them every few months. So this cohort finishes in December. And we also have Sam, who's doing a lot of work around taking a lot of our voluntary responsible AI standards to market in a way that's much more digestible to small business. So you'll see some really good stuff come out of Sam. And this month has been AI month for me. So we have been launching the AI Adopt Centres at South by Southwest. The Minister was there with us and it was super exciting. We also had people from regional Australia, from Mulgabor, which is one of the tiniest towns. And this was a rock band that was actually there at South by Southwest. And they got to design their own record cover using Leonardo.ai. So I'm going to show you a little bit about some of that stuff and how it works. So that's a little bit of the activities that I've been doing around AI month, and obviously I'm here as well, so it's super exciting to be adding a regional trip to that. So a little bit about what I'm going to share today. I'm going to talk about the layers of AI, generative AI, how the industry is innovating with generative AI and the national AI resources. Now, I've had a very close relationship with Bendigo. This is actually taken from the Bendigo Art Gallery, because my husband is a still life painter and had his own show here, Chris Beaumont. So I feel like I've really been part of the cultural backbone that is Bendigo. So a little bit about artificial intelligence. It has been around since the 60s, and it was originally started to really build some more human capability into technology, to make it see, hear, learn. And that was a really big ambition back then. And so we really saw a lot of work happening in the machine learning space, where you can handle large amounts of information to make data and make sense of it. You'll notice that we don't get stuck in lifts as much anymore, and that's because of machine learning. It's being able to predict before the lift breaks down. But that's really evolved, and I think that machine learning has become very commonplace in our infrastructure and our businesses. But the area that's really created the most excitement is deep learning, and that's where we use machine learning and add this kind of rich layer to it to make it feel more like the brain, and work and build neural networks in it, which are very similar to the brain. And that is where generative AI emerged. And generative AI really has changed everything, because it's allowed people to really understand what's going on with AI and use it and touch it and be part of the benefits that it brings. And already, as mentioned, the Tech Council and Microsoft did a study back in December last year, and generative AI is already co-piling so much work in Australia, from the developer to be able to get their software developed faster, the creative and being able to have their creative tapping into things like DALL-E and Copy.ai and obviously ChatGPT, through the salesperson to be able to really tap into customer service and more deeply understand what's going on in that space. The manager, I think a lot of managers are now sending much better emails. I've been noticing my emails are getting better. And I think, everyone's tapping into that capability of being able to improve your writing. And the researcher has been huge. So AlphaFold has been a really significant impact to the researcher community, because now we have 3D coordinates of a whole lot of proteins, over 375,000 of them, and that's making a massive impact in terms of drug discovery and the kind of things that's happening in research. So I'll share some of that stuff with you today. And I also want to share that generative AI is having huge growth. Already we have 13 generative AI unicorns. We have some of the top 50 Gen AI products being visited uniquely around the world, things like ChatGPT, obviously, Gemini, which is Google's version, Character.ai, where people are spending 2 hours a day talking to an AI character. Sadly, Character.ai has had its first suicide because of the way that the guardrails were potentially not implemented correctly. So it's really interesting that, we talk so much about responsible AI, but you kind of see how very important it is when you see these things happen. I also want to notice on a higher note, Leonardo.ai, which is an Australian startup, started in gaming. It's number 13, and it's so exciting to see Australian companies competing with the rest of the world in this space. And Leonardo.ai has just been purchased by Canva, and I'm going to show you some examples of what it can do later on for a bit of fun. And the other company that I'm really impressed with is Archistar, who have been working, they pop out from RMIT in Victoria, and they do things with planning data, and they're actually able to create 3D imagery of buildings, and I'll show you an example of that. And finally, Sapia, and so I'll talk a little bit more about them. I wanted to touch on adoption, because I think this is a really interesting area for people, and we run an SME pulse. So what you'll see is the way we've categorised this data is that we have the people who are currently adopting AI. It's at 35%. And this is a study done with 280 small businesses, and we do it every month, and it's different small businesses. And then we've got 42% who are not adopting within the next 12 months, and we also have 23% that are not aware. So we're still doing a bit of work in awareness. What's really interesting about looking at it across industry, you'll see the biggest area is services, health and education, manufacturing, but we can do so much more in manufacturing. It's really interesting to see agricultural, forestry and fishery being so low, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's a big area of innovation and lots of possibilities in that space. Construction at 28%, distribution 30%, and retail trade. I wanted to share, and I find this one really interesting, and I'm glad we put the lights down, but these are the key use cases that people are using in this space. So, and the key outcomes. So, faster access to accurate data, really big in distribution. Improved quality control, really big in manufacturing. Stronger security and data protection and fraud protection, really big in construction and retail and hospitality. Improved customer engagement, really big in the health services and communications. Enhanced resource optimisation and productivity. Enhanced engagement and responses in marketing activities, big in manufacturing and retail, more agile and product service innovations, more effective supply chain and supplier management, improved employee experience. Interestingly, really big in agricultural, fishing and forestry, and increased revenue and profit and cash flow. They're getting some results in that space. So I hope everyone enjoyed that very detailed study, and I'm happy to provide the more detailed study if anyone wants to have a look at this. But I want to move into the Australian AI ecosystem. So we manage a AI ecosystem portal of about 400 Australian AI companies. You'll see that we have the Bendigo company that you'll see here today, Legantus. They're doing amazing work in a range of different areas, and I'm particularly proud of the work they're doing in the health sector. But I'm going to go deeply into particularly AI foundation models, which is the generative AI, and the kind of impact they're having in industries. And we're going to look at construction, we're going to look at cybersecurity, we're going to look at climate, we're going to look at creative, and we're going to look at agriculture. We'll have a quick look at healthcare. So I also had a bit of a play around mapping the Australian AI companies and what they're doing in this space. And you'll see in health we have Harrison, in climate we have ClimateSense, in finance and human resources we've got Sapia, as well as Smart AI, Connected Empathetic AI. And I'll share some details about all of these. In agriculture we've got a few. I love Chirp. So let's go on the journey. So first of all, Harrison.ai, they're doing a lot of work in collecting radiology, but they're actually now using generative AI to provide descriptions of that radiology. And that's really speeding up the work of radiologists. Andromeda, who is an amazing example of a young mechatronic engineer, a young girl called Grace Brown, that she came out of uni, got $10,000 from Vogue Codes, like the actual magazine Vogue, to build her first robot. And now she has a robotics company putting very sophisticated, friendly robots into elderly care, dealing with our most vulnerable, but with an empathetic large language model that can remember what people have said to them and be able to communicate with them. And she was at South by Southwest on stage with Minister Husick, and Abby is providing lots of connection for some of our most vulnerable people. Let's move on to construction. SOTA is a WA company, and they came from the mining industry where they started off with wearables. Now what they're doing is they're using a large language model, a generative AI platform that's populated with a whole lot of regulation data, and they can take a photo, it can identify violations, and can also tell you how to fix that violation based on the Australian Safe Work Standards. So it's super exciting what they're doing with SOTA Genius, and it's been really interesting in the AI industry connections that we're doing, and hopefully we can bring one to Bendigo, where businesses can quickly trial this stuff, and it's making a massive difference to the safety of workers. What previously needed a lot more staff to apply these changes is now being applied in a much more cost-effective way, which means more people can access it. This is Archistar that I was talking about. I highly recommend, if you're into construction and development, to log on to archistar.ai. It's so much fun to play with. You can put a spot in a map and it will actually tell you what the planning zones around there, and if you go one step further it will generate the building that you can build there based on all the planning. This has been used extensively as well within local government, particularly at places like Victoria in the digital twin space, to help accelerate some of these construction and planning issues that we have in this space. I also want to just touch on climate tech. So just in August in Amsterdam, Microsoft launched Project Aurora through their research area. And what Project Aurora does is it brings in millions and millions and millions of weather data and can actually begin to predict the weather accurately. So it's completely changing what we actually think of the weatherman, because now we can have much more accurate results. And we're seeing people here locally in Australia start to implement these foundation models into their climate solutions. So ClimateSense is one of them, and they're doing extensive work with the City of Melbourne to identify vulnerable areas around heat, etc. So that's a super exciting area and very relevant to the regions. We also have in the agricultural space Hone, that has been doing a whole lot of work with grain and soil testing, and really really reducing the difficulty that this used to have for agriculture, to be able to have a device where they can do that kind of work using AI, as well as organisations like Octopus, who are doing amazing work around grain and different types of agriculture to improve AI forecasts and maximise profits with generative AI. And the key crops they've been working on are tomatoes, broccoli, as well as grains, and as well as cotton. So they're a very interesting startup out of Sydney. I did want to mention robotics. Lyro Robotics is based in Melbourne and Brisbane. They are now a fairly large company with over 30 employees. Nicole Robinson actually won the Women in AI Award this year for the work that she's been doing in robotics. But they've figured out 3 key areas. The first one is the soft grippers, to be able to touch things like mangoes, bananas, pineapples, zucchinis. The other one is using the brain AI ML, which allows you to actually be able to pack vegetables in a way that makes it more efficient, and that can generate generative AI plans to be able to quickly pack them, as well as having computer vision around algorithms to calculate the number of items and pick and pack. And it was really interesting because Nicole had left her family farm and came back and started to realise that people don't want to be in warehouses packing things, and that they were really struggling to find people, and there was so much waste in that space. And you know, she's now got her robotics actually being sold into avocado farms in Mexico and a range of different places. So she's amazing what she can do with robotics. So this is the reliable packing of avocados, the precisely packing of zucchinis, and the work that she's been doing in Queensland to take the pain out of sorting pineapple tops, like people with very sore hands. So I think it's just an amazing innovation. I really like Chirp as well. So one of the biggest problems that people have in agriculture is dealing with pests. And, you know, birds are beautiful as well. And so what Chirp does is it actually helps remove birds out of protected locations using species-generated language and communicating signals that repel or attract the birds. It's an amazing Australian invention, and really great use of this technology. And you know, I've used a lot of these algorithms in my work at Microsoft to help count different types of biodiversity in forests, but this is just one step further. I'm glad it's putting a smile on a lot of people's faces. This is actually a really interesting story. Also in the Docklands, a Melbourne startup, they got together with La Trobe, actually, to pitch off to NASA this idea of being able to grow microgreens in space, and they won. And now for be able to grow microgreens in a smaller space. And now so you can go visit them. They've got these amazing AI green rooms where, as the vegetable grows, the actual growing area moves out, and then it shrinks, and that's all AI based. And now they're focusing on growing systems with a whole heap of funding that they've and the work they're doing with La Trobe, and coming out in quarter 2025. But they also are able to imagine this idea that maybe one day we might have a microgreen fridge in our own apartments. Imagine reducing those food miles and making our actual food a lot healthier. Another one that is Bitwise Agronomy. Fiona Turner actually won the Women in AI in 2021 for her work that she's been doing with berries. She's actually got the largest large language model for blueberries in the world, and she can identify blueberries, she can analyse them, she can pick them ripe or unripe, and it's making a massive difference, and she has customers all over the world with this AI algorithm. I thought I'd have a bit of fun and share with you something that I did with Leonardo.ai. I just typed in the Bendigo AI forum, can you add some pineapples and some cabbages? And this was what it generated for me. Oh, I also wanted some kangaroos. You'll start to see a little bit about how weird AI-generated images can be. You'll notice it's actually put a koala head on the kangaroo. I thought I'd better add some raspberries and some robots in this next one. But I urge you to have a play with this. This is going to have a massive difference to what we can do in our creative spaces, particularly in our sales and marketing. It was really interesting. I drove down today with Arsini from the Department of Industry as well, and he's just up the front if you want to talk to him later, because I'm going to be going to horticulture. But it's really interesting the massive change this is going to have when we move to our marketing and communications in the same way that, TikTok has become more of an entertainment. We can imagine that, a lot of our marketing and communications needs a lot more of that investment around, improving the way we communicate with our customers, and having tools like this can make a massive difference to reducing the costs of that space, to start to, generate ideas and be able to have that creative input. But I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to close with a few things that you can use to help you on your AI journey. We have these spectacular AI fundamentals videos that were done by HDI, Human Technology Institute. Some of them are 3 minutes. They're fantastic to really help you understand, what are the risks of AI, and how do you procure AI, and how do you address some of the harms in AI systems. We also have an amazing Introduction to AI course that I personally worked on. If you get to the end of it, you'll see me doing some coaching in there. In 3 hours, you can have your grounding in AI. You'll get a certificate and everything, so it's a super exciting course to do. We also have the voluntary AI standards that have been launched, which take you through the 10 voluntary AI guardrails and how to use them, overview of the current regulatory landscape, different considerations and alignment to international frameworks. These are the 10 guardrails around accountability and governance, risk management, protecting AI systems. How do you have the data governance? How do you have the data quality and the provenance, the testing and evaluation, the human oversight, the transparency, the contestability, the record keeping, and probably the most important, number 10, is the stakeholder impact and engagement that you need to do to work with your stakeholders when you're implementing AI solutions. And 2 amazing resources, AI and ESG, and my favourite is the AI Impact Navigator. So if you want to use the voluntary AI standards, you can use the AI Impact Navigator, and that can help you identify challenges and how to address them in your business as you implement AI. All right, thank you very much. You've been an amazing audience. I hope you enjoyed that little roller coaster. These are my details. Feel free to connect, follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to the National AI Centre, and congratulations on being here today. You've started your AI journey and you're going to be learning a lot more. Thank you.